764. So one of the things I wanted to talk about today is, we had spent some time a couple of episodes ago talking about turn-based role-playing games and their validity in this day and age. And it kind of got me thinking about what games are going to look like as we continue to move on in time, because you have right now, when you talk about games that appeal to an aging population, right? People think old people think people who have never had video games, and exposing them to playing video games for the first time. And that's where you get approaches like Wii Sports, Wii Bowling, all of this
flight simulators.
Yeah.
My grandpa fucking loved that game.
And where you typically get what are considered like old, quote unquote, old people's games at the moment. But I think that demographic is going to end up changing, and it's going to change rapidly, because as the generation ahead of us starts to become old, and as indeed we start to become old, we are a generation that has never known life without video games.
Now, something I'd like to point out here too, because when he initially pitched this game to or this topic to us, which was an hour ago, I was confused about it, because I feel like we're at the age now where my tastes in games aren't going to change just because I get older. But
right.
He's not talking about things thematically or in a genre sense. He's literally talking about the technical aspects of games.
Right. So if you think about what happens as you start to get older, your mobility starts to become limited, your reaction times become slower, and so
you need to get to the bathroom quicker.
The mechanics that you deal with, you
need a pause function, man.
In games now, and I think a lot of Dark Souls specifically, where you've got a lot of reaction and timing that's very specific, and since we rely on these mechanics so heavily now, we have proved that we're not going to age out of gaming, right?
Correct.
Like, we're not going to reach an age in our life. I'm 31.
As much as our grandmothers wanted us to grow out of it, it's not fucking happening, Grandma.
Yes, exactly. So, we are going to be game players for our entire lives. Like, there's not going to be a point where we ever end up putting this stuff down. This is the entertainment medium that we've chosen that entertains us the best. No hating on TVs or movie, but this is just what we have chosen for ourselves. It's what we like to do, right? So we are going to end up becoming a demographic that has to be catered to because of physical limitations, right? So, you start getting arthritis.
Think about playing Dark Souls or those games that really make your body tense up.
Yes.
When you have really terrible arthritis. Yeah,
right.
Perfect. Or your vision starts to go a little bit and you can't keep up with games like Dying Light, or something that might give already people like Chris motion sickness.
And the thing is that it's not that we It's not like we can just go back and just play games that we haven't played before. I guess that works for a time.
Back to Mario,
or replay stuff that we've already played. Nobody wants to do that, and we want to keep consuming. We want to keep giving the industry our money. So at some point, they are going to start catering to this generation gap that's going to exist.
Yeah,
and we've talked about the generation gap before in terms of touchscreen controls, and will we be able to wrap our heads around that? But as we start coming across more and more physical limitations associated with age, what kind of game concepts are going to have to be redesigned to be able to cater to someone that would be in an older demographic?
Well, here's the cool thing that I realized when you were first bringing this up is right now when you talk about video games, when you talk about who they're catering to, I feel like even right now, even though video games have been around for 40 some odd years now,
right,
that you still have that both, I think, the industry and business and that everyone looks at this specific demographic. These are the people who play video games, and no one started to realize yet that video games shouldn't be aimed at a specific person because so many people play them now. It's so widely being accepted. And you're right. As we get older, it will eventually be that there is no generation that doesn't know what a video game is,
that doesn't know how to interact with it. Yeah, that sees it as a foreign medium.
Exactly. So at that point, you as a company are going to have to decide what your demographic is. Just like movies aim for, like preteens or men or women, video games are going to start doing the same thing. And I think at that point, what's going to be cool is you might actually see a boom in the industry. And there's going to be, especially with something like Steam and indie developers, you're going to be seeing a lot more companies start to rise up to fill in those needs.
And I think that this is where something like turn-based combat really does have an opportunity to shine, because that was one of the things that I appreciate about turn-based combat when I play a game that has it is the ability to put down or to slow down my decision making, slow down my thinking patterns. And for as much as I like a game like Dark Souls 3 where it's all about reaction and waiting for the perfect moment to strike and learning and correcting mistakes, for as much as I like that, I also do like a very slow, methodical process of deciding, okay, what am I up against in this battle? What's the best approach to take? Magic, damage, what is my healing strategy? And you get a lot of that through just plain old turn-based combat.
I think that has its place more in if the game is played very tactic style, but I think the basic turn-based as we know it, like with the graphics and the technology that's something the PS4 provides for us, and you have like this really in-depth, almost real-life looking character who's standing there bopping up and down like this, waiting his turn to attack. It's not realistic, and I don't want to say my immersion, but honestly, like when you have graphics that are that great and such an immersive world, and you have a character literally standing there like this, but there's not the whole experience of the game. I hate it.
You can do other. I mean, there are other idle animations that you can do besides bobbing up and down.
Yeah, because here's something to think.
You're gonna stand there and just watch your friend get beat up. No, you're not. You're gonna run over there and help. Like that's not how fighting works. And so, like, I get it on like a handheld or whatever. You're like in the car. I get it if your whole entire game is set up tactics or like RTS or something like that. That makes sense. But like in
so are you saying
platformer though, like a headlining platformer, I just don't think it has a place.
So are you saying that as we age and we get we start coming up against these physical limitations that we're just not going to be able to continue to play fighting games? We're not going to be able to continue to play RPGs because they now. I mean, you take a look. Take Dark Souls as an example. You can't pause Dark Souls. You can't stop Dark Souls. If you do, it breaks the connection with the server, and then it'll reset where you're at. So the more that we start to rely on these reaction mechanics and sort of time-based mechanics and tension mechanics, twitch mechanics, as I like to call them, then I mean, you're going to be aging a certain population out of your game. But the developer is. So I actually think that as we move forward and as we see an older demographic that still has a strong connection to games, that a battle system like a turn-based RPG is very viable for someone who doesn't need all of that reaction and tension, twitch, who
doesn't need to be like 110% focused into what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. And I it may feel like a waste of resources, Nika, but I don't think it is, because when you look at what it takes to really design a game anymore. I mean, yes, as long as you have, as long as you have a good art team, you can get away. The Order 1886 or whatever the fuck that is, that was an indie game. And it was done with it was short, it was a small game, but it was done with fully realized rendered graphics through the Unreal 4 engine.
Not to mention, Nika, that the other thing you have to consider is just because our technology and our tech is getting better and better and better, and game producers and developers are able to make more and more realistic looking things, maybe in the case of a turn-based MMO or RPG, yeah, you're right, an actual realistic character standing there bobbing might look ridiculous. So maybe for a game like this, they decide to take a different sort of artistic design.
Final Fantasy Explorers or whatever that one game is.
Which is why it works perfectly on mobile devices, but for a platformer, I just don't see where it fits.
All platformers don't have to be hyper realistic. One of my favorite platformers of all fucking time was the Jak and Daxter series, and that was like fucking super cartoony. I mean, look at Kingdom Hearts is coming out, Kingdom Hearts 3, and does that suddenly look hyper realistic? No.
But Kingdom Hearts is very smooth, transition-y graphics. Like, seeing a character like that bobbing up and down would be just as weird.
The thing is that I'm talking about a demographic shift to be able to necessitate the shift, and it seems like you just don't. Like, you're just like, leave it in the past, and
no, I don't think so. I
mean,
think
but you've and now you've doubled down. You've doubled down on the argument again to relegate it to handheld systems only. I just think that that's a really bad argument. We don't see enough shit released for the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 as it is. Period. Okay, I don't really, and we're starting to see a definitive slowdown in AAA titles. AAA development has slowed to a snail's pace. I mean, we used to get tons of AAA developed titles.
I know, two Assassin's Creed a year,
and now it's slowed down a lot. A lot. So, picking up the pace of output, I think, is an important thing here, and having an open stance or an open. An open mind to other types of battle systems, even ones that look backward to be able to effectively have a good battle system. I don't think that's a bad thing, and especially as like I said, as we get older, those types of systems are going to be necessary.
I have it, Nika. All right, so it takes you out of your immersion when you see guys are saying they're bouncing up and down, because in fighting there'd be no stop. They just keep going. Okay, so what about a battle system that sets up the battlefield, and then the screen kind of dims because time is stopped? You select all your actions, they're all executed at the same time, then it stops again. So it's more like what you would see in Dungeons & Dragons. A round, quote unquote, in Dungeons & Dragons tabletop can take fucking 30 minutes sometimes if you have people that don't know what the fuck they're doing. But in, quote unquote, real game time, that entire round was only 6 seconds worth of combat.
Well, but why do we need everything to be, again, hyper-realistic?
Just for Nika's sake.
I hit the button 5 times, so I've got 5 slashes that my character did. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with selecting attack and having a number value attached to that attack.
That's fine. I'm fine with it too.
Yeah, that's something that doesn't bother me or break my immersion. And I can understand wanting more complex RPGs. We're going in that direction. We've got Dark Souls, we've got The Witcher, we've got FF15 that are all pushing us in that direction. But there's nothing that's really there being like, I'm going to be the old guard for this old type of gameplay that is still valid.
Well, there's also no reason that you couldn't, say, for instance, while you're picking your options, you could still have the characters doing something on the screen. You could still have them doing like real rudimentary combat or defense with each other while you're picking your options. There's no, don't say that.
And the thing is,
you couldn't design that.
In real actual combat too, you're not just constantly swinging as quickly as you can. You're waiting, you're biding your time, you're waiting for the opportunity to attack, or you're blocking something. I mean, we see stuff in fucking movies and Hollywood, obviously, where it's just go. But in actuality, you're studying your opponent. You're waiting for your time to attack and deciding when the best chance is.
Let's get our anime pants on. While everyone's picking their options, characters are all internally monologuing. It's gonna be great. I can't wait.
Yeah, but Nate's right. You're basically, I mean, we have a concept here that's genuine and real. In 40 fucking years, we are not going to be able to play the same type of games that we play now.
We're just physically not going to be able to.
It's such a depressing conversation.
Period.
I'm already there, so.
So they're going to have to come up with games for us, or they're leaving out an entire demographic. Now, it's one thing right now, because, again, our parents, our grandparents, they've never played games, so they don't give a fuck.
Right.
But to just completely forget the original generation of gamers, like, you're missing out on so much fucking money. And basically, the only argument you have right now that you're basing it on, I feel, is realism within a game. Games don't have to look realistic, and just because they don't look realistic doesn't mean they have to be relegated to a handheld.
Maybe, but with the way that the graphics work and the way that they're going to get better and better and better, it's going to be more and more awkward the better
they don't have. No, you're not listening. The graphics don't have to get better. When someone makes a new game, it doesn't have to be hyper realistic. Okay, Undertale.
There's
Undertale.
That's an indie game.
It was an indie game that won and was nominated for how many fucking awards this year?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Like, we have games that are coming out, and a lot of them are coming out of indie developers that have sprite-based graphics that are these sort of like retro-styled games. And
Pixels.
Yeah, come on, fuck indie games. I mean, all the Telltale games. Oh, that's not indie. But the first one wasn't it?
But like specifically here, we have been talking about AAA titles.
Even Square Enix, though, with making something like Bravely Default and Bravely Second, sort of tacitly admits that these classic gaming styles end up still having validity to them. So,
But if Bravely Default was on the PS4, I'm not sure it would have done as well.
That's an interesting question.
I disagree. I totally disagree.
$60 on the PS4, you think it'd have done as well?
I would have played it.
Ooh, see, like
I don't know. I mean, maybe if the graphics were better.
Well,
maybe not $60, but
guys, you know what? You're missing something out here, okay? A game that perfectly supports Nika's theory about how a game has to have great graphics on a current generation console or it's gonna flop. Minecraft. Oh, wait a minute.
Okay, Minecraft is not an RPG. It's not the same thing.
We're not just talking about RPGs, though, Nika. We're talking about just gaming in general, fighting games. How?
Like I said, if it's an RTS or if it's a tactic style or something, I see the art and I see the focus of that going forward. But like honestly, the way that technology is going as we get farther into future, like it's hard for me to even believe that there's even going to be controllers in the future. Like we're just
no, you're right. There might not. Eventually, we'll get to a point where we have jacks in the back of our necks. We hook into the Matrix, and age doesn't matter.
But that's
turn-based is like honestly, turn-based and not just turn-based, but like gaming as we know it will probably not even exist anymore. But so this argument probably doesn't even matter.
No. It actually does matter, and you're actually highlighting exactly what I'm talking about because you're right. At some point, the control scheme for how we control games is going to change. We have VR. We have things like touch screens, touchscreen iPads and stuff like this that already are changing up control schemes to a point that it is confusing and disorienting for us. And that is just going to continue. So it's going to be on a company to decide, okay, well, no, the controller scheme, the controller format is still a valid choice. I can still... For
you know what? Here we go, Nika.
For a certain segment of the population.
What's the tech that they have? I forget which company's doing it, but it's part of the VR setup where you actually like stand in this thing and you can like walk in place.
The Omnimill.
The Omnimill. Okay,
yeah.
Nika. They come out with The Witcher 7. Okay, you have the Omnimill. It's all VR and everything. You're 50 years old. Okay, and then when you're at school one day teaching some kids, you're out at recess. Well, we don't have recess anymore apparently, but whatever. You throw your fucking head out. You
tweak your knee.
You fuck your knee up. Now you can't use the Omnimill. Now you can't play the new Witcher game because you can't stand up long enough to make any progress with it. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Are you just done gaming forever now?
I don't think controllers are just going to go away. If they are, it's going to take a really long time.
But I see your point.
Right. And that's what we're trying to illustrate here is that something has to happen somewhere to help compensate people that aren't going to be able to keep up with what current trends in gaming are.
Yes.
I just have this sad image of 70-year-old me walking into a GameStop and some like 18-year-old walking up and like taking me over the arm to walk me over to the old folks section.
where he sees greatest hits, Final Fantasy 8-2.
Yeah. And like I have this one tear that goes down my cheek. And he's like, well, let me see if I can find any of our old PS5 controllers, Granddad.
Oh,
and I'm just like,
God.
When I was your age, I had respect for my elders. Kind of.
Wow, that's so next gen.
By the way, let's go to the phone lines, taking a call from Evil Lives. What's up, Evil Lives? How's it going?
Hey, how is it? I had an interesting thing to comment on.
Yeah.
Back in 2142, if anyone remembers that Battlefield game.
Oh, yeah.
I was part of a gaming clan that one of our members was 72 years old.
Wow.
That's
75?
That's pretty impressive.
72.
That's pretty impressive, I got to say.
And one of the things he was amazing at, and he was in the leaderboards, like in the top 15 of the world, because they kept stats for that, as a sniper. And he
why? You know why?
He probably was a sniper.
He was probably legitimately sniping gooks in Vietnam.
He said the reason why he was so good, or the way he felt he was so good, was because his age, he wasn't able to keep up with the fast pace, but his age allowed him enough patience to make the shots.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that's
Moving
fair.
from a distance when you're playing the sniper in a first-person shooter, you don't have to make large, fast movements.
Well, he was probably having flashbacks while looking through the sky.
He was
scope.
a retired Army colonel.
I believe
Of
it.
course
Yeah,
he was.
see,
Yeah,
exactly.
there
He
it
was a
is.
Vietnam vet. I guarantee you. He either went over and killed some Vietnamese or some Koreans. One of the two. I almost guarantee it. And that's the thing, is that like when you like that utilizes a skill set that somebody developed in the real world and then made them translate it to the digital world, which is, I mean, that's the cool thing to watch about older generations who end up getting into video games, because that's really cool. Like, they're taking legitimate skills that they've learned out in the world and then applying them digitally and getting some of the same satisfaction out of it, some of the same emotional satisfaction out of it.
Back in FF11, my benefactor had a boyfriend who didn't play FF at all, right? And they had made a bet. He's like, because she was always complaining she could never make Gil in FF11, which was a completely different economy. So they had a bet. He's like, I bet in a week. He goes, give me a target and I'll make that for you. So she's like, all right, 60 mil, which was a lot in that game back then, right?
Sure.
So he took the bet. In 2 days, he had that money.
Wow.
Just off of what she had on her character already.
Wow.
He took like a day, going through and like analyzing the auction house and stuff like that. He's an accountant, by the way.
Yeah.
And yeah, made her more money in 2 days than she had ever had in her entire career on that game.
He probably RMT'd it.
No.
Whatever.
No.
By the way, if you are Vietnamese and offended by my use of the word gook, I was just quoting that guy. I was just quoting that guy because that's what they said when they were over there.
I'd like to point something out in the chat really quick. Decibel says, guys, here's what's going to happen when we're too old. We'll just be replaced by new gamers. Truth. Well, obviously.
Yes,
Duh.
but that's
again, what we said earlier, you're losing out on potential revenue.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Is that there's not going to be a time in our lives where we're not gamers. Like, yes, there are always going to be new gamers. There are always going to be kids born, so therefore there will always be new gamers.
It's going to be different because we're thinking of a world where literally nobody doesn't know how to operate a video game, which is going to be very different than the world we're in now.
Yeah, there's going to be plenty of companies that are going to look at the market and say, well, every company is trying to get that 12 to 18 demographic, but there's a 40 to 60 demographic right now that is right
touching.
for the picking.
Because right now, obviously, people in that age generally aren't playing games.
I
We're 80,
disagree.
especially. There's going to be literally a demographic for everyone to play games. So
I disagree. Facebook and Bejeweled is tapping that demographic hardcore.
Yeah, the current one. But when we get to that point, that's not going to be enough.
It's not
going to
be us.
So you know what the stray is going to be for our demographic when we get elderly? Remakes.
Like,
we're going to get remakes.
But that's already happening. But the thing is like that you look at game companies in the way that they're already trying to cater to soccer moms to pull them in. Like that for a while, a lot of the stories that we read was that the gaming, the quote unquote gamer demographic is changing to start including more soccer moms and stuff like that. And so certain game companies were making content to specifically appeal to those types of people. But there's a great meme out there that says today's gamer girls are moms of tomorrow that can understand that an online game can't be paused. I
saw that.
it's an excellent meme, and this is exactly what I'm talking about, is that the people who are playing games now are eventually going to be, if they're not already, parents. And they're going to be they're going to start aging and still going to want to play video games.
Yes. One of my favorite stories was a daughter asked her, nearly 40-something dad about his Pokemon cards. And the wife's like, you should have seen his eyes light up as he ran to get his old collection out of the attic. And then they spent 4 hours going through them.
Some of my 5-year-olds don't believe that I have Pokemon cards. And the thing is that because I've kind of banned them from my classroom because they're literally so distracting, my kids don't listen to anything. I told them at like the end of school I would bring mine, but like all the time they're like, do you really have Pokemon cards? What's your favorite card? And of course I'm like, I have like the original generation cards.
Yeah.
And these kids are like, do you have mega super powerful Charizard EX Mega 4? I'm like, what?
You're like, he's a poser. That's not a real Pokemon.
I went over to my friend's house and they had their niece there. She's 7. And while I'm over there, she walked up to me and she's like, do you know who Jigglypuff is? And I'm like, yes, I know who Jigglypuff is. What the hell's the matter with you?
Pokemon is Jigglypuff, and they have no idea who she is. It's really funny. Like, they know all these big ones from the cards, but they don't really play the games or watch the show. They just collect the cards.
Yeah.
So, like, I have kids that know and love Charizard, but when I said, "Oh, do you know Charmander?" They're like, "Who?" Charmander. It's really interesting demographic.
Nika's kids triggering her.
There's going to
She was like, "Oh my god!" I'm like, "Do you know what Bulbasaur is?" And they're like, huh?
She's like, "That's it. Today's lessons plan is canceled. I'm teaching about the original 150."
We're doing first gen.
We're gonna watch a movie today. It's called the Pokemon movie.
No, but they know like Mega Spotted EX Venusaur or whatever,
Yeah.
but they've never heard of Bulbasaur.
EX Deoxys Y.
There's going to be a show in 30 years called Final Encounter Blast, and they're going to be complaining about how the game companies are making games for the older generation and we're ruining gaming.
If we all have kids, can we force them to do a show called Final Encounter Blast?
I still can't get over the fact that his actual response to a little girl was, "Of course I am. What the fuck is wrong with you?"
2 point out, I did not swear at her, but I was just like, "What? Of course."
Oh my god! But yeah, like that's the thing is that we're never not going to be gamers. We're always going to want to play, but there's going to be a point where our physical ability is going to end up running up against our skill in the game. So that I think is very very interesting to talk about. Evil Lives. Just real question, quick question, follow up. Did you ever notice like a difference in the way that this guy would like approach playing the game or approach being a part of the group? Like, could you tell that there was a generational divide between your other teammates and this guy?
Yeah, he was a lot more disciplined, I would say.
Yeah.
And he also cursed a hell of a lot more than any of the younger ones.
Guys, there was
but
sorry.
He was one of the best people to. He was able to herd the cat, so to speak, a lot better than some of the younger members of our group.
I can imagine.
Yeah, they probably had a bit more. Well, I would hope they had a bit more respect for him
and patient.
Too.
Yeah, and I'm sure he had a lot more patience. Thank you, Evil Lives. Thank you for the call. We appreciate it.
And I don't remember his name. I don't know if either of you two were, but he was in Covered in Bees. But we had there was a German player that would show up every once in a while.
Clubber?
Was it? No, I don't think it was Clubber.
No,
he came
Clubber
on,
was the only German one that I remember.
He came on Paladin a lot. He was a Mithra, but I know that he was actually in his late 50s, maybe early 60s. I remember that there was one day.
Ring Free.
I wish he listened.
I'm kidding.
But I remember there was one day that Kieran had dropped like all three of like the really really big drops, and it was his time for all of them, and nobody like raised a stink because everyone knew how long he'd been waiting for them. You know, like how patient he had been. You know, he never got like up in arms about anything like that.
Yeah.
And I think that that goes to show that older people, I think that's one of the major strengths they have over us is patience.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the call, Evil Lives. We appreciate it. If you'd like to join in on the conversation, Final Encountercast on Skype, 810-207-1764. Kookie will toss you along to us in the studio. I just this is something that I end up thinking about this a lot.
It's not a position that I had kind of really looked at or thought about before that physical limitations would start affecting what people can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you facing your own mortality within gaming?
Well, that's why I'm just hoping, I'm before I die that we can just transfer our consciousness into cyborg bodies.
This is depressing. I'm going to Toys R Us.
PC gaming will last forever though for some reason. Like I feel like consoles may change to completely VR, but I feel like PCs will always be there and there will always be a way to emulate old shit.
You don't well obviously, but you don't think that eventually, VR systems, VR specs are going to start popping out? I mean, on PCPer.com, I noticed a few weeks ago that they had priced like sort of like a medium core VR system at $2,500.
Well, that's where everything is moving slowly but surely. But I think Nika's right in that PC will be the one that remains kind of in this era for the longest.
I feel like
likely.
keyboard and mouse is going to be a thing for a while, or even like having a VR thing in front of our PC. I think there will always be, I don't know.
I think screens will change, but I don't think that our input method for PCs will end up changing much. The mouse and keyboard is, I think, going to be around for a while.
Because the PC is applicable in so many places beyond just gaming. It'll keep it grounded there for a long time.
I am still banking on a little bowl of gel that you put your hands in and it just reads your electrical impulses.
See, like the thing is, like when I think about VR, though, I think about like you were talking about the big full body, like where you got to run around.
Yeah, the Omnimill.
I so don't want that. That's exact. No, fuck that. This is my exact same reaction with the Wii. I don't get up off your couch to play a game. Why?
All right, okay.
I don't want that. I want to sit on my fucking couch.
We can affix a harness to the ceiling so you're not actually standing on it. It's kind of just holding you there.
Just give me the fucking
but
controller.
You still have to like move your legs.
I want the Omnimill as an option. I don't want it as a requirement.
God. Yes, yeah.
Like, because there will be times where you're going to be doing a first-person shooter, and with the Omnimill, this could probably be pretty badass,
yes,
and I'll get a workout.
$8,000 optional
you know what?
peripheral.
I could see an episode like this happening, right? And then Pokemon Go comes out. Nate's sitting out like on his couch. He's just kind of let me take a look at it. Oh, there's a gold duck down by the riverfront, huh? He shrugs. As he's walking out the door, he looks at Fritz. You speak a word of this to no one.
I can see just him getting really, really mad and throwing his phone out the window.
Well, I don't know about that. That seems like a very expensive, poor decision.
Maybe he would just throw the phone at Fritz.
I was going to say, because it's not like a Nero or Nate makes poor life decisions.
No, but I feel like I might like tape the button up, like next to some treats or something, and be like if it pops up on my phone and have them hit the button,
just automatically hits it.
Yeah.